Routing a Mario game with the lowest score possible is quite a challenge. A lot of stuff that we usually take for granted just becomes forbidden when all we care for is a low score number. Suddenly, we can't kill enemies anymore. Suddenly, all coins are forbidden, power-ups stop to be helpful, boss fights become much more dangerous, checkpoints are forbidden, even brick blocks are suddenly something we can't joyfully hit our head against anymore. Nonetheless, now that New Super Mario Bros. U finally made it onto the Switch, it's time for us to take a look at this routing challenge. So today, we will not only make our way through the game while interacting with as little gameplay elements as possible, but we will also find out what the lowest possible score required to beat New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe is. So are you ready? Let's do this! Okay, so if we really want to beat the game with the lowest score possible, we have to keep a ton of things in mind. First and foremost, we aren't allowed to collect coins. Each and every shiny but deadly coin we collect adds 100 points to our score counter of shame. We aren't allowed to defeat any enemies during the run, but not only do we need to avoid killing enemies ourselves, but we also have to be careful not to accidentally defeat an enemy in a tragic accident. One way this often happens is if there is an enemy on screen when we touch our favorite flagpole at the end of a level. Because as it is known, as soon as a flagpole is touched, all enemies die. The flagpoles are something we have to keep in mind in general. Every area of the flagpole grants us dumb points when we finish a level. Every area but the very top, because whenever we end a level by touching the very top of the flagpole, we're rewarded with a yum 1-up instead of pointless points. We always want to end the stage when the timer displays exactly 1 second. That's because each second that is left on the timer adds 50 nasty points to our total. Sadly, Mario dies at the exact frame the timer hits 0 in this game, which means that each level we enter adds at least 50 points to our total score, since there is no way to end the level with no time left. We aren't allowed to take checkpoints, since those add 2000 points to the total, but avoiding checkpoints shouldn't be too much of a hassle, since the game is designed in such a way that allows us to dodge them. We can't hit Mario's precious head against brick blocks or question blocks, since destroying those helpful little blocks grants us points as well. And finally, we have to avoid all power-ups in the levels, since power-ups punish us with points. There's one exception, however. If we pop a delicious power-up from our inventory on the world map, then it luckily adds no scummy score. We'll use this a couple of times during the run, but more on this in a second. Let's first discuss the optimal route. Finding the best route is luckily surprisingly simple, since each level has a level entry fee. Since we aren't able to finish a stage with no time left on the timer, each level we enter comes at a ridiculous cost of at least 50 points. We simply haven't found a way to get rid of those points yet. To make matters even worse, we're also forced to collect shameful boss points for every boss we defeat. Each boss requires us to take on the burden of another 8000 points. Because the first 2 times we ouch a boss, we're always granted 2000 points, and the final blow is always worth another 4000 points. So with this in mind, the routing has to follow 2 simple rules. First, we want to enter the least amount of boss stages. Second, we want to enter the least amount of stages in total. There is only one viable route that fulfills those 2 rules. Basically, we take every secret exit on the map. We leave 1-2 via the secret exit to reach the 5th world. We leave the 5th world through the secret ghost house exit to make it to the 7th world, and in the 7th and 8th world, we take the 2 shortcuts there as well. This leaves us with a total of 16 levels, 5 of which feature expensive boss fights. Okay, so all that's left to do for us is to optimize those 16 stages, and then we should finally know the lowest score required to beat New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. Before we start, just one more thing. The way I theory crafted this was by first beating the game as a whole, and then to play the levels on the route over and over again in order to find out the theoretical minimum score. Because of this, there are some leftover points on the score counter. So to avoid confusion, we're going to use our own little score counter that counts the total score so far. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start in 1-1. The stage itself features no problems at all, and reaching the flagpole at the end here without collecting any unpleasant points is no problem. There's something else that is interesting that's going on here, however. we don't get any power-ups here. In theory, it is possible to grab a somewhat cheap acorn mushroom in this level by killing this nice little squirrel and by stealing the acorn suit it carries. The cost of such a crime would be 1200 points. 200 points for the squirrel murder and another 1000 points for the acorn theft. That's a really cheap way to obtain an acorn mushroom because it cuts the need to eat a normal mushroom before an acorn mushroom spawns. But even though this is a cheap acorn mushroom, there are actually ways to obtain one even cheaper later in the run. Since we refuse to cosplay as a squirrel, we run into another problem, however. We need to touch the top of the flagpole at the end of each stage. But in 1-1, the top of the flagpole can't be reached by small Mario. Luckily, there is a simple way to solve this problem. All we have to do is to get a little bit of help by our fantastic twin brother.
Thunder!
We can use Luigi to save the flagpole points here. So how does Luigi help us do this? Well, by doing absolutely nothing. All that Mario's twin has to do here is to stand close to the flag, because this allows us to jump off his head and to touch the flagpole's top. Hooray! 1-1 is 50 points. Next up, 1-2. Here we have to make our path through a cave that is not only inhabited by dangerous biting piranha plants, but also features the secret exit to the 5th world. This stage gives rise to a couple of problems. First, there is this dumb coin layout. We can't make it past the section without collecting a coin. The stinky coin is easily avoidable as Acorn Mario, but can't be dodged with no power-up powers. I tried getting rid of this coin for ages, but as far as I can tell, this one has to be eaten. But there is a far bigger problem ahead of us. The entrance to the secret exit is sadly still besieged by a bunch of worthless coin villains that try to pay everyone who wants to pass. That's sadly a gigantic problem for us, because we have to take the secret exit. Not taking it would force us to collect about 25,000 additional points, because the secret exit skips at least 3 boss battles. The minimum amount of coins required here is 14. Only the first 3 can be skipped. This sadly skyrockets our total score up to 1,600 points, since beating the stage alone requires us to pay 1,050 points. Ouch. Luckily, stuff becomes a lot simpler for a while now. The secret level can easily be beaten with only 50 points. The next one, Jungle of the Giants, is no problem either, since we still have no acorn suit. Making it through this level without accidentally killing an enemy would be a huge challenge. If it wasn't for Nabbit, we are able to switch over to everyone's favorite Thief Rabbit here, which makes us invincible, and this level easily beatable with only the 50 timer points. And afterwards, something good happens. Afterwards, Nabbit spawns for the first time on the world map. That's huge for us. So if we chase and catch Nabbit in this stage, then we're rewarded with a pea acorn. But not only do we obtain a delicious pea acorn, but catching Nabbit doesn't add evil timer points to our total score. Since eating items on the world map doesn't punish us with points, this gives us access to a pointless acorn suit. Hooray! That makes our lives a lot easier from here on. We now wear an acorn shroom. Hey, it's Ceave from the previous future, the current present and the actual past here. So I just quickly double checked everything and noticed that I missed something here. If we beat Jungle of the Giants as Nabbit, then Nabbit doesn't appear on the world map. This means the level has actually to be done as Small Mario. This makes the stage a lot harder, but it's still possible to beat it with only the 50 timer points. Okay, so back to the past. We now wear an acorn shroom and we're able to regain it twice during the run by catching Nabbit again. The acorn mushroom makes a lot of the upcoming stages easier. So much easier that there isn't much to talk about them. So let's fill the boring stages in immediately. The jungle tower is worth unspectacular 8,050 points. 50 for the timer and 8,000 points for killing the boss. All non-boss levels in the 7th world can somewhat easily be done with only the dumb timer points. So does the first stage in the 8th world. The final level is sadly worth 20,050 demoralizing points. The problem here is that we have to fight Bowser not once, but twice. The first fight is worth 4,000 points, because we can't proceed without triggering this progress blocking P-switch. And during the final fight, we're punished for attacking Bowser by obtaining the double amount of points, which makes this fight cost a whopping 16,000 points in total. There is currently nothing we can do against this, which leaves us with 6 stages to investigate and a current score of 30,100. The remaining 6 stages are all quite interesting for one reason or another. Let's start with Flight of the Parrot parabeetles, the secret level that connects the 5th with the 7th world. The problem here aren't the many coins that try to ruin our day, nor are the problems here the happily fluttering parabeetles or the huge burning bullet bills. The problem here is this question block and those brick blocks. Yup, the problem is that those blocks get destroyed by the huge bullet bills, which punishes us with 10 points for each block destroyed during the process. That's so weird. Almost always of passive block point punishment are gone in Mario's version of the game. We don't get points if the Bowser hand destroys blocks anymore. We don't get points if fireballs kill innocent brick blocks that just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. Basically, all brick point sources are gone. Yet these blocks in this specific stage still give us points automatically when a bullet bill off screen flies into them. Since the stage is an auto-scroller, there is no way for us to raise the bullet bills so that they unload before they reach the helpless blocks. All we can do here is to wait for the blasters to completely eliminate the bricks and to sadly accept the dumb 30 points this grants us in total. Next, yippee yay, it's Stone Crush Tower time. The Stone Crush Tower is as annoying as always. There are still tons of ninja coins that try to ambush us. There are still stinky fire bros firing laughable but ouching fireballs. And Kamek is still really not good. The best way to at least have a shot at beating Kamek with only 1 second left on the timer we have is by fighting a Snabbit. This makes the level before the boss a lot more difficult, however, because the literally last obstacle before the boss features this radical rotating coin circle. Dodging this floating currency is really difficult as Snabbit, and the fact that this spot is directly at the end of the tower doesn't make it any better. The fight itself can be completed with exactly 1 second left on the timer, but sadly not consistently. The evil boy witch is just completely random, and his phases only line up in such a way that we're able to hit him at the last second in about 1 out of 10 tries. Yep, this significantly lowers the chances that we're ever going to see a full lowest score run, but at least in theory, the dumb Stone Crush Tower is only 8,050 points. The next stop on our point minimizing journey is Ludwig's castle. So this stage was especially fun when routing the game coinless, because of this stupid section here, where a Sledge Bro assaults us by throwing hammers while crushers try to crush us, and worst of all, nasty coins block our path. The way we were able to solve this problem in the coinless route was by wearing a stylish mini mushroom outfit, which not only allows us to climb walls, but also makes us so small that we're able to run below the shiny yet deadly coins. Sadly, this option is locked for us here, since mini mushrooms are rather expensive. Finding a way through this crusher nightmare without a mini mushroom had me really worried. But then I watched Nico Barbecue's recent video about his journey of beating New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe without touching a single coin, and as it turns out, Nico found a way through this part coinless that I missed. Nico just picked up the POW block that is hidden earlier in the stage and carried it to this spot. This allowed him to drop the POW and to get rid of most of the coins this way. Clever. Sadly, the POW block not only kills the coins, but also the Sledge Bro at the top. Usually I'd be totally okay with killing Sledge Bros, but sadly we can't do this here, because killing the Sledge Bro is obviously punished with points. But luckily there is a way to pop the POW block while also sparing the Sledge Bro's life. So if we wait for the Sledge Bro to do his silly ground pound and then throw the POW block while the turtle is out of sight, then the Earthquake gets rid of all the coins but spares the Sledge Bro's life. This way we're able to make it through this passage coinless. Hooray! The rest of the level and the fight against Ludwig are no problem at all. This means that Ludwig's castle adds another optimal 8,050 points to our total. The airship stage is next. The interesting part here isn't the level itself, there really isn't much going on in the first half. The interesting part here is the boss fight against Bowser Jr. in his punching clown car. Here we are forced to damage Bowser Jr. 3 times in a row, which usually results in 8,000 points. However, this fight can actually be completed completely pointless. All that we have to do is to bring a fire flower. If Bowser Jr. gets hit by Mario by jumping onto his head, it's 2,000 points. If he gets damaged by a fire flower, it's 2,000 points. If he's damaged by throwing a bomb, it's 2,000 points. Ground pounding a bomb close to him and damaging him this way is 2,000 points. And juggling a bomb with fireballs close to him as well, that is no points. Yep, bob-ombs are weird. If a bob-omb gets ignited by a fireball, then the bob-omb isn't associated to Mario and therefore doesn't add any points when damaging Bowser Jr. That's a huge point save here. We're able to change to a fire flower directly before the boss fight, which costs 1000 points, but it saves a total of 8000 points over the course of the battle, which means that this stage only adds 1050 points to our total. Hooray! There is only a small problem. We now wear a fire flower, but at the end of the secret level in the 8th world, we actually have to wear a pea acorn suit, because otherwise we aren't able to dodge the coins at the end. We also need to wear a funky acorn outfit in 8-4, so we have to chase Nabbit once again. And this is why this is a slight problem. See, Nabbit currently resides in the Jungle of the Giants stage, the stage we previously used Nabbit in, because it's close to impossible to not kill any enemies here otherwise. The problem is that we aren't able to switch over to Nabbit again in order to chase Nabbit, because believe it or not, as it turns out, Nabbit isn't able to chase Nabbit. As soon as we switch over to Nabbit, Nabbit just disappears. Luckily, it's still possible to solve this problem by damage boosting. It's a bit tricky to do, but if we just take all our courage and run into all the enemies on our path, then we're able to catch Nabbit right in time before invincibility frames run out. Hooray! This gives us access to another pea acorn, which enables us to beat the secret level in the 8th world with only the 50 timer points. Now only one final stage is left for us to investigate, and then we finally know our lowest possible score. Red Hot Elevator Ride. In this level, we presumably have to ride this red hot and elevator to the top of the level. And holy fuzzy. That's no trivial task. Whenever a coin or a bob-omb drops onto the elevator, it stubbornly decides to stop to move until we remove the disgusting coins. That's the first problem here, and this problem can somewhat be solved by making heavy use of an interesting mechanic. If we use the acorn suit's awesome updrift abilities and wall jumping, then we're able to move so far up that the platform is outside of the current camera. Whenever the elevator isn't within the camera borders, the game decides to cheat a bit and to raise the platform directly below the current camera position. This way, we're able to raise the elevator and to remove coins and enemies that made themselves comfortable on it. Sadly, this becomes increasingly difficult to do as the ride goes on. In the later parts of the level, we have to use another trick to get rid of the bob-ombs pointless. Luckily, there is something. If we ground pound one of the walking boom bots off of the platform, they don't grant points. Most of the time. It's surprisingly simple to accidentally ground pound the bob-omb into a flying coin or another bob-ombie, which stupidly gives us points nonetheless. This makes making it to the top of the stage incredibly challenging. But there is another problem hidden in this nightmare ride. In the middle of the level, there is suddenly a huge, stupid brick block wall blocking us from proceeding. The level wants us to hit this P-switch here in order to proceed, but that's something we definitely are not going to do for very reasonable reasons. So the only way I was able to find to make it through here was to hit Mario's poor head against 5 of those brick blocks in quick succession to open up the path. This sadly comes at the cost of severe headache and 50 additional points. There's currently nothing we can do against it. So 8-5 is another 100 points, which finally gives us our total. 47,480 points is the minimum score required to beat New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. So, is this score the absolute, totally perfect lowest score ever? Well, probably not. It's more like the lowest score until we find a lower one. If someone of you wonderful ladies and gentlemen happens to know about a mechanic or a trick that may allow us to save a couple of points, please let me know about it. Also, this lowest score number is kinda high, isn't it? That's mainly because the Deluxe version lacks the boost mode that was present in the Wii U version of the game. This single missing feature makes beating this game much more expensive than beating it on the Wii U version would be. On the old version of the game, the lowest score would probably be somewhere around the 8000 points mark, but that's a completely different routing. So yeah, here we have it. The currently absolutely lowest score required to beat New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe is 47,480 points. I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and maybe feel especially missing the boost mode today and want to hit the subscribe button as well. I hope that all of you have a wonderful day and to see you soon. Goodbye!